All right. Welcome to the City of Newberry Planning and Zoning Department meeting on Monday, April 1st, 2019. What we want to do is, did everybody get a chance to look at the agenda? All right. Can we have a motion to approve the agenda?
Motion to approve. Second.
All right. We have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right. Want to stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? And Jessica, could you lead us, please?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Fantastic. All right, has everybody had an opportunity to review March 4th minutes?
Yep. Motion to approve the minutes?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right. Now, there's on the announcements, there isn't anything printed for your guys, but I do need to make an announcement. Naeem's Form 8 that he filed at our last meeting, we just needed to mention that it'll be permanently recorded as per Florida statutes. And then going further, we have blank Form 8s. If you have any kind of conflict of interest, we have blank Form 8s in each of the drawers up here. So if anybody's got a conflict of interest, they can fill out a Form 8 and we'll get it filed. All right, old business, there is none. Which brings us to new business. We got a quasi-judicial public hearing. Can you not hear me? All righty. Quasi-judicial public hearing, SE 19-01. It's an application by the City of Newberry and Alachua County agents for Norita Davis, owner, for a special exception in the Agricultural A zoning district to allow the construction and operation of a public agricultural extension office and conference center on approximately 5 acres located at West Newberry Road, which is State Road 26, on parcels 01919-000-000 in conformance with section 4.4.5.14 of the Land Development Regulations. And at the conclusion of this, if it passes, we'll announce the date the application will first be heard by the City Commission. So, since this first section is a quasi-judicial, I'm going to have to review the procedures. The city attorney or chair shall read into the record the ordinance resolution by title and number, or the applicant's name, file number, and the subject matter to be decided if there is no ordinance or resolution. The city attorney or chair shall explain the rules concerning testimony, primarily that the substantial and competent evidence must be met when the board makes a decision, and shall state the following. All public testimony will be taken under oath. Everyone testifying will be subject to cross-examination. All documents and exhibits shall be entered into evidence. The giving of opinion testimony is limited to experts, and closing arguments will be limited to the evidence of record. The city attorney or chair shall explain the procedure and order of presentation. The applicant, staff, and all participants requesting to speak may collectively be sworn in at the beginning of the hearing by the city attorney or designee. We got to disclose any ex parte communications and disclose whether any member physically inspected the properties. And from that, we have the presentation order, which is a staff overview. The applicant will present their application with no time limit. We'll have a staff report with no time limit. We'll have a third-party intervener with no time limit. We'll have public comments, which are limited to 3 minutes each. The intervener, which is representing 3 or more persons attending the meeting, may speak for the group, and they have to have an affidavit is required. The applicant may cross-examine. The party interveners may cross-examine. Staff may cross-examine. Members of the decision-making body, through the chair, may ask questions of the staff, applicant, party interveners, and the participants. Final arguments may be made by the applicant, party interveners, and then the staff, related solely to the evidence and testimony presented at the hearing and introduced into the record. The city attorney will advise the decision-making body as to the applicable law and the factual findings that must be made to approve or deny the application. And then the deliberation of the application on the board. And then after deliberations, a vote shall be taken to approve, approve with conditions, continue, or deny the application. With that, is there any members of the board that have any ex parte communication? All right, now I've got none.
Mr. Chair, you've done an excellent job of stating what the procedure is and how we go about the ex parte proceeding this evening, so there's no further necessity to go into that procedure further. At this time, I'll go ahead and, with your consent, swear in the witness or anyone else who intends to testify about this application. If there's any members of the public or any other members of staff other than Brian that intend to testify, raise your right hand. Stand and raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm to tell the whole truth and nothing but the truth? And Mr. Chair, Brian Thomas is the only person in the audience that has been sworn and the only person that has responded to the request for swearing in. So at this stage, he can go ahead and present the application to this board.
Absolutely. Mr. Thomas, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This application for a special exception is to give permission basically to construct a IFAS agricultural extension office and a conference center on 5 acres directly adjacent to what's currently the Canterbury Equestrian Showplace and is the future home for the Alachua County Agricultural and Equestrian Event Center.
Mr. Thomas, did you prepare the analysis per the code as to a special use permit as noted in your application this evening?
Mr. Chair, the petition includes the various findings necessary for a special exception. Traffic, the ingress and egress would be initially through the agricultural event center next door, and then when the agricultural technology park develops, there will be additional access for the person interested. It's not anticipated that the traffic generation will be sufficient to cause any negative consequences on State Road 26. The parking and loading, again, will be determined specifically based on the square footages of the facility as once it's designed. There will be refuse and service areas as required. Will be connected to the city of Newberry water and wastewater network. Clay Electric for electric service. There are no buffering or screening requirements for this use when it's adjacent to agriculture, although given the probable location of the demonstration gardens, that probably require quite a bit of screening to the north. So that the neighborhood is actually in groups here. Signage, there is allowable on-site signage for the facility, and they will likely share some signage with the agricultural event center next door. There will be significant open space requirement will be met. Said that LDR is allowed to up to 20% coverage. It's at maximum by the special exception of 10%. The rest is open space. It's compliant with comprehensive plan. Land use and facilities are allowed, as stated in the agricultural zoning district, with special exception. The intensity of use is not such that it will have negative impacts on public facilities. It should not develop or change the conditions of the characteristic area of the neighborhood. We also don't anticipate the impact of the living conditions for any impacts to public safety. As far as drainage goes, there will be on-site stormwater management facility required. There will be potential runoff from the
Mr. Chair, the application and the analysis as provided by Mr. Thomas will be made part of the record in this proceeding.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir.
I got a question. We have neighbors that use that dirt road as access to their homes in the back, not in Country Way, but they what will this do for that access going to their home?
Mr. Chair, the city is in negotiations right now with the neighbors that you're talking about and some other property owners back there to either work out a reroute agreement or temporary ingress and egress situation until such time as the backyard park develops and the access to the backyard park as well. So they have ability for either temporary access, continuing the path that they have, or through the neighborhood until such time as additional access to the backyard park is available.
Mr. Chair.
Yes.
And just as a contextual point, this deal, since both of those parcels, I believe, are actively for sale, this makes both of those parcels much more valuable.
Oh, absolutely. I see the value in it, definitely, but I know we've got that dirt road that goes between both parcels, and I remember sometime last year we had another issue with some of our neighbors that lived back there, and they were concerned about their egress and stuff, being able to get back to their property. So, I guess that's something that the city's working on. So.
Like I said, Mr. Chair, the city is in active negotiations
Mr. Chair.
Yes, sir.
If I may, I have a couple questions about, well, a lot of the concern in Canterbury is going to be about traffic coming from Newberry Road, going westbound. Now, currently, to get into Canterbury or into Newberry Oaks area, if I'm not mistaken, there's a right turning lane that shoulders off. Is that something that we can see in the near future with FDOT? Because of the fact that Canterbury being the deal we have with Alachua County, and now with IFAS on this one, and then the possibility of slowing down traffic to turn before Canterbury. Is that something that we're looking at as well? It's just safety because of fog in the morning for those drivers that are getting to IFAS early in the morning. You know, and the truck drivers, we saw recently a truck rear end a semi. And luckily, I mean, from the sounds of it, everybody's okay, but I can see a lot more damage happening, especially when there's traffic of people actually needing to stop in this place.
Mr. Chair, if you look at the actual traffic patterns, the majority of the traffic in the morning is headed east into Deansville, and we're assuming that most of the traffic for the IFAS center is from the east to the west, and so the actual traffic loading will be fairly minimal, but the opposite would be
Yeah.
flow of traffic.
And then,
And likewise, the same for the afternoons, going in the opposite direction as well. If that proved to be wrong and there was a substantial increase in traffic, there's, I suppose, always the opportunity to improve it as we look at an extended right turn lane. But typically, you have to have a pretty substantial increase in traffic before those turn lanes are
And I mean, we have room in that road, we have egress in that road to make that happen, correct? If the time.
yes, Mr. Chair, there's ample right of way.
Okay.
For those increases. I think right now, there's probably at most, at any given time, 15 to 20 people occupying this offices. It's not a huge number. There will be some spikes in that occasionally as the conference center is used for outside meetings or something. In general, the average day-to-day traffic is
Alright, and the other one is the storm basin. How does it, I was reading on the report, I believe it was before the pictures, between adjacent properties on number 10, no negative impacts on the improvement or development of the adjacent property are expected. However, when we were talking to this county manager, I believe she was talking about the reduction of space is even greater because we're going to need to reevaluate I take it the stormwater basin. I don't recall exactly, but I recall there was something about, you know, the runoff. How is this any impact on what's happening with the ag? Is this going to help improve their stormwater? Is this
Mr. Chair, it shouldn't have any impact on that at all, simply because the stormwater runoff that's generated from these facilities has to be contained within the property
okay?
itself. And so the stormwater management facilities will have to be designed to capture any of the stormwater generated on site, prevent it from going on site. And so, and that's not to say it's not conceivable there could be some joint use stormwater facility between the Western Event Center next door, if it worked out that was there's cost savings involved. That's a potential possibility, some kind of agreement for joint use. But your typical development has to be self-contained, so that there's no any impacts on site. And so once they do the actual calculations of impervious surface based on the actual size of the facility and the parking requirement, they'll know how big of a stormwater base. With the 5 acres,
Mr. Chair, do you mind if I tack on to that comment in particular?
Sure.
He still has the floor, though. That was kind of my question as well. I mean, I understand that the city of Newberry owns the 5 acres. Alachua County owns Canterbury. So that's why they have to be self-contained. But it seems like there could be some sort of interlocal agreement to assist the county in making sure that Canterbury is still a viable location for other events, because it's going to get pretty small with their new stormwater regulations. Is there an opportunity in this process to come back and revisit that and say, well, if we ran a culvert underneath, we could tie in and we could kind of count both the spaces?
Mr. Chair, I believe there is, but that's more in the engineering realm.
Okay.
Yeah.
But I know in other areas those types of agreements have been made and shared from these stormwater facilities. But logistical sense.
I guess we got, the biggest thing I guess we would have to see about the stormwater is, you know, when they actually put a pen to paper and start drawing their plan out, their actual site plan, because that's what they were unsure of at our last meeting was, you know, where everything is actually going to sit. But I mean, that is a good subject to approach them with, you know, an interlocal agreement type of thing. But I know you guys will work on that. Go ahead, Naeem.
So the last thing is the roads. The road going to IFAS, this back road of Canterbury. On the record, are we going to be responsible, A, for this road? B, if we are we promising anybody any type of pavement? Because the last thing I want to see is, well, when's the city going to fix this road? Well, you bought it this way. Now you want us to fix it? That wasn't part of the agreement. Is there anything in agreement that we are going to have to make this a paved road, or will it continue to be a dirt road for future to come? And if they want to do it, they do it on their own terms, or are we on the hook for it?
Mr. Chair, I think the river that you're referencing, which is the one that connects to the river, that's not going to be the ingress and egress point for the river. So the ingress and egress will be across the already paved driveways that are on site on the Canterbury side. And they'll be extended over to the offices. So this is the Agtech Park adjacent to the office facility and also another access point. That access, we don't anticipate access other than so and as far as those facilities, all of the facilities on the Canterbury side of the property, as will the IFAS center as well. It's a county facility that the city of University
Yes, sir, Mr. Mayor.
Chair, thank you. Just back on to what Naeem said, I'm concerned about that access through the county fairgrounds as well. Currently, the county fairgrounds by the airport is behind a locked gate. I don't know what they're going to be, how they're going to want to secure the property when they get the new fairgrounds there, but I don't know if they're going to want it to be open to the public all the time if you leave that road open. I wondered, like Naeem did, like if it shows on the site plan, it makes it look like we're going to pave that little section between the road that loops around the covered arena and the ag park. If we were going to pave something, it seems like we would pave whatever the ingress road is going to be, and we also have got to get access from the Davis family. And Mr. Attorney, don't we usually, before we sell a landlocked piece of property, have to show some kind of access that we've acquired? So we're saying that you're going to get access through the county fairgrounds, but I don't know if has the county, and I know we actually are going to own it as a city, and I guess we can give ourselves access, but we would have to have their approval if we're going to allow the public to pass through their fairgrounds where they may have equipment they want secured up there.
Excellent questions. The county will own the Canterbury site. So that's, we're gonna need to have access through that county site. That's the anticipation. So it will go through that circular area and then across to the Ag Extension Office. I know.
Have we got that in writing legally? Have we got a?
Yes, I think that is not our difficulty. My understanding through the manager's office is that the dirt roadway is intended to be vacated. He's in negotiations right now with property owners in the back. The anticipation is further that there will be access on Norita Davis's property, ultimately to the Ag Tech facility, and then there will be access to the Ag Extension Office off of that particular parcel as well. So the anticipation is that there will be access along the county through Canterbury, and then ultimately there will be access from the Ag Tech on the south part. That remains to be.
Shouldn't we secure that access as part of this land purchase, rather than wait till later and come with our hat in our hands and say, will you sell us access? Because they're lopping off this 5 acres that is surrounded by their land, and will ultimately, I think, that what I heard is the city is gonna own this or release it to the county.
City's gonna own the Ag Tech property, lease it to the county, or to the county extension office. That's correct. Part of that
It's actually the
lease
state,
is going to be, no, it's county.
County, okay.
Yep.
But Canterbury, no. The
Canterbury
county
will be
actually own-
county. That's right.
Okay, the county
That's
will.
right. And so the lease will provide the access through Canterbury. In other words, if you're gonna lease our property, you're going to provide us access. That's the interlocal that is being executed between the parties.
Okay, I'm confused now.
Well, and
Go ahead.
here, let me just clarify too, the position of that 5 acres was specific to the county's request for where it needs to go based on the proximity between Canterbury as the site of the ag fair, the youth fair, and the ICE extension office, which is an integral participant in those activities. They need that direct adjacency, and so it's actually their position that what they think is the best place to make that connection. Because it's important for, I mean, they would be cutting off their own facility if they didn't provide.
But I think the mayor's question goes to ownership of the road and the surety of access to it. And the answer to that is that we already have that. And I can't remember off the top of my head the details about that, but I asked the same question. And it's either the city already owns a utility easement, but for some reason we already own for sure, undisputable, the access to that road. That we have
The dirt
that.
road that goes up here.
The
is that
dirt
a city
road.
road, or is that a?
And that's the detail that I can't remember, but I remember having this conversation with Mike, same thing, because we spent 2 or 3 weeks negotiating for that very reason. We have to have this in writing before we move forward. Then it turned out we already own access to that road, and we own either the portion of the road that we need, or I think it actually even goes further than that, that's already city owned. So it wasn't a question of do we have to negotiate access to this road. We already own the access to the road, and I wish Mike was here to speak to that.
Yeah, I do.
Because, I mean, I remember having the conversation. I just can't remember the details of what it. Do you remember?
Yes, I'll see if I can pull it up here. Let me work on that. There is a easement, and again, I'll see if I can pull it up, but there is an easement that provides for access to that property. However, it cannot be, it has some restrictions. In other words, horse show folks can't use that easement. That's basically what the easement says.
Was this 5 acres, was this a separate tax parcel, or is this something that we're cutting out of a larger tax parcel?
It's going to become a separate tax parcel.
But right now, it's part of the Davis, 1,000
It's
acres.
been surveyed and once all the details are finalized.
Okay, but it should show on the survey if there's access, as part of it, that would have been drawn out on the survey. And not even see it there. I saw it on the survey, it looked like it was landlocked.
The survey, I don't believe would show, access off-site.
And I think that's actually, that's where it came in, because we thought we didn't own the road, and because the survey doesn't show that. And as deeper as we got into it, we realized we do own the road. I just can't remember the details. I've just texted Mike to see if he can refresh my memory of how that conversation went.
If you want to have them just send it real quick, but I'm searching for it too right now.
But the dirt road, is that what you're talking about, Bill? The dirt road
well,
in, or you just talk about, is there something already
Whether
planned for
it's the
access?
dirt road or some other access, it seems like we ought to have that in our hand before we buy the piece of land.
Because my understanding is that we're gonna be cutting across, instead of using the dirt road that's already there, that we're gonna be cutting across the Davis's property.
We are, but the ultimate plan is for this to be a horseshoe, so that there will be in and out on both areas. I've heard the county commission and the county staff say that that's eventually where we're going to be go. They're not going to, and well, they may. Who knows what will happen in the future? But the original plan is that this will be a place for IFAS to come in, but it would also help access, because their plan is to have overflow parking come from the event center over to here, and so they're going to want folks to be able to.
Okay, so that's still gonna be,
But
A
that's
road.
conceptual,
Okay.
right? That's conceptual. Like, well, that's kind of our overall plan. I mean, for us, the important, pertinent question is what Bill's getting to is, do we for sure have access to this? I know we wouldn't be sitting here if Mike didn't feel sure that we were have access. I just can't remember the details of how that conversation went. Because I asked to say, that held us up for 3 weeks, was this road.
Is this property west of Miss Davis's entrance to her house up there?
I guess, Mr. Chair, it's, almost due west of, the franchise.
But, my point is, if I'm buying 5 acres in the middle of somebody's farm, I wanna see it as part of the deed and part of the survey, that where my access is, not a discussion that we have, that maybe it's gonna go here, maybe it's gonna go there, because that's, legally, that's not gonna, it doesn't bind the Davises to provide me access. I'd like
So
to see-
Evans provided, and I've pulled it up, to Canterbury. And it is a easement that's described as follows: Alan Evans and Carly Evans, husband and wife, provide, part of the first part, provide and grant unto Moetzi and Raji, Florida Corporation, Michael Moetzi, Muhammad Raji, and Nazan,
We're with you.
the grantees, a perpetual and non-exclusive easement for ingress, egress, and public utilities, but not including traffic for horse shows and events over and under the following described property, and it attaches Exhibit A and Exhibit B. Exhibit B being the property that is owned by, that is known as Canterbury. So they've already provided an easement from Canterbury to this property.
Okay, so is the county aware of their fairgrounds is gonna have an easement through it?
Yes,
That's what you're saying?
yes.
Property owned by the county. The county knows that the prior owners have given us easement for the city's property.
Yes.
Will that become part of the deed?
Yes, that will be part of the deed. I was looking to see if I have confirmation between the city and the county on this, and I don't believe I have that information, but I know that that's been discussed between the county and the city. As part of this is going to be our lease arrangement.
The public will have access through their fairgrounds all the time.
Yes.
They won't ever be able to secure it.
At least that section of where the turnoff will go to the county extension office until such time as and if Agritech Park becomes a reality, then it'll come up the other way, the other side, that's right. There will be, it is anticipated, this access from the west will continue, and there will be additional access from the east. The negotiations that our mayor was just talking about are that perhaps Macaulay and Evans, who are the back property owners, will get rid of their existing easement in favor of that easement or the ingress and egress road that will be through the Agritech Park.
But the dirt road that goes up there now is Macaulay's access to his
That's right.
property
That's correct.
through the Davis property.
Yes,
And then we don't have any part of that.
we do not, except we have an easement over that parcel by virtue of the easement that I just referred to.
Confused me. I thought you
I
referred to it
I
as
think
through
that's
Canterbury.
no. That's the conversation, and at least in part, is coming back to me because the Evanses have been big supporters. They've said whatever we need. It was McCullough who has used that road as a negotiating ploy. Turns out that we have the easement which supersedes
From
McCullough, the part that
Evans.
we need. We already have the easement from the Evans, which is perpetual, and I can't remember the wording.
Non-exclusive
Who are the
of
Evans?
They own property in the back.
They own property in the back.
Macaulay
And
has-
both McCullough and Evans have other exits from their property. It's not that they're actually landlocked, but because we have the easement from the Evans, we can't be excluded from the easement from the other. I think that's
That's
in
correct.
essence the.
That's correct.
And this is the easement part, just this portion right here that crosses over the dirt road, correct?
That's right.
And then back
Okay.
from here.
Yeah.
I think our easement from the Evans.
From there?
I'm not sure where the easement from the Evans goes because it would extend until you get to the Evans' property.
Yeah. All right.
Well, I would suggest before you present it to Board of Adjustment, have all those easements drawn in, so we don't have to use people's names, because it confuses me
Good idea.
as to who owns what property and whose land we're talking about. Just draw them in so we can,
I think
tell
that's
you.
an excellent point.
Mr. Chair, might I suggest too, that the ins and outs of the easements and the legal considerations in terms of the purchase of property are not what we're here to discuss tonight. All of what we're here to discuss tonight is actually the special exception of the dwelling on the property. Should all of those fall into place, if any of those don't fall into place, the city wouldn't be purchasing the property. This would be a moot point.
So, and I'm understanding, this is just like a conceptual thing saying, we're happy to have that facility there, but then we'll get another bite of the apple when we see site plans and,
Yes, Mr. Chair, they will ultimately come back with the actual design site plan for approval as well. This is preliminary discussion, what is allowable density-wise.
But your point is well taken, and we'll have that outlined for you when we get to the next stage.
the only other thing I had is that we've limited them to 40,000 feet, but that's still a little bit less than the maximum. I would say we give them 45,000, whatever it is, the maximum, that gives them 10%. Is it 10% of the?
It's 20%.
20% of the total area? So, let them build office up to that. Why restrict them by a little bit? I mean, they may not want to build it that big, but allow them to build as big as our land regulations allow it. If they want to build something bigger, that's even better.
Or if they want to add on in the future, gives them room to expand.
They don't have to come back before this board and say we need another 2,000 feet because somebody arbitrarily wrote 40,000 on there. So,
Yeah, just authorize the max. All right, any other questions for staff?
Ask for a motion.
We might be there.
Mr. Chair, the appropriate motion would be to, let me get to it. The appropriate motion would be to pass special exception 19-01, an application by the City of Newberry and Alachua County as agents for Narita Davis, owner for special exception in the agricultural A zoning district to allow the construction and operation of a public agricultural extension office and conference center on approximately 5 acres located at West Newberry Road, State Road 26, on a portion of parcel 01919-000-000 in conformance with section 4.4.5.14 of the Land Development Regulations of the City of Newberry.
All right,
I'll make that motion with the addition of the fact we'd like to recommend the expansion of the office building allowance to 20% and that we draw in access lines to make that clear.
all right, we have a motion.
Second.
A motion and a second. Any public wish to speak to the motion on the floor? All right. There being no comment, all in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed? Ayes have it. All right. What date, by the way? May 4th? April? April 22nd, all right. So this'll go in front of the Board of Adjustments on April 22nd.
Gosh, Bill, it's almost like you've been in the construction industry before. Yep.
All right, so that takes us to new business B, which is discussion of current board membership, expiring terms, and appointment process.
And Mr. Chair,
Who's going to lead us with that?
our principal planner, Wendy Kinzer, will be leading us in that discussion.
All right. Ma'am, can you step up, please, and introduce yourself to the board so everybody knows who you are?
Just talking about the expiration of your terms, the three of you are coming up to either you apply to be reappointed or we have to get new people. So we wanted to make sure we've got Marlene, Bill, Rondell, all three of you that are, your terms are expiring at the end of this month. So we we wanted to bring up that you could also even have appointed 2 additional members, who may have some kind of expertise in architecture, historic preservation, that kind of thing. So this board for the Historic Architecture Review Board could actually consist of 9 members. So just want to throw all that out there to let you think about that and see if you had any comments or ideas, whether you want to keep that as is or change anything, what your thoughts are about staying with the Historic Review Board. I know concerns are coming up this month. The other concern is that the Newbury Main Street, the main streets play a very large function in historic preservation throughout Florida. And the Florida Main Street program emphasizes that. And they mentioned also to our own Main Street group that we've been participating with our historic preservation efforts and doing more of that. And so whether maybe you want to specify that or Chamber of Commerce or Main Street member, it seemed like things to think about. Brian, maybe you could add some other things that
Yeah, as far, I've been told that there are at least a couple of people that would like to apply for the planning and zoning positions. And so I think if we do have other applications come in, then all of them would go back to the commission. The commission would make their appointments based on that. We have not received any yet, but I've been told that there are a couple of people that are interested. As far as the HARB goes, in addition to the participation from the Planning and Zoning Board, we would like to try to get a couple of members that might fit some of those suggested guidelines. In a city the size of Newbury, it can be difficult to find an architect that has any kind of preservation, history, or finding the people who can fit those specific roles. We have a contractor, which is one of the roles, so we've got that part filled. And of course the resident at large, we've got that filled, but it would be nice, and as Wendy pointed out, we can have up to 2 non-resident members if they have a particular expertise. And so if we can't find somebody to fill some of those other roles to supplement the work you're already doing on the HARB, then we'd also like to look for maybe a couple of people from the outside. And if I remember correctly, the way our rules are written, they would be ex officio. They wouldn't be necessarily voting members, but they could lend their expertise to the discussion. So, but if it's the board's desire, we can look at amending the bylaws or the rules for the Historic Architecture Review Board, or if you like them the way they are, then keep them the way they are, and just try to supplement the seats that we have right now.
I remember talking about this at our last meeting, and I think it's a great idea to bring in people who would have expertise in the areas that would benefit HARB. The problem is finding the people who are interested in serving on the HARB board. I think that's going to be more of the challenge, is getting people involved who have the experience that we need. So I don't think any one of us up here, and I don't mean to speak for anybody else but myself, but I don't think any one of us up here would shun experience. I mean, we're all looking for experience. We're all looking to learn something to make our jobs easier. So if we can get our neighbors interested that have what we need, I think that'd be fantastic. And that's the first step, is getting our citizens to where they want to step up and serve with us.
Brian's correct, and the statute provides that whenever possible, it doesn't require people with that expertise, but if you have the ability to have an architect, a property owner within the historic district, a contractor, real estate broker or attorney, city resident at large, representative of the Chamber of Commerce, and a member of the Planning and Zoning Board, no member of the Architectural Review Board, Historical Architectural Review Board may be an employee of the city. So we do have several of those particular categories covered. Like Brian said, architect's a little difficult in that, and the statute recognizes that you don't have to have these people. It just says whenever possible. And as he stated, you have to be at least 3 up to 7 residents of the city appointed by the city commission to serve without compensation, and then non-residents having architectural or historic reservation may be appointed as ad hoc non-voting members. In addition, 2 non-residents having historic preservation or architectural experience may be appointed as ad hoc non-voting members. And what I've seen is if you have a non-resident who is a business owner in the historic district, that would be the type of person you'd want to bring in and add to your membership if you have somebody like that in the downtown district.
And that gets to my point. It's finding those people who could add that expertise to us. I mean, we operate fine the way we are, but if we can motivate citizens who have the expertise that'll help us, yeah, I mean, that's where our focus needs to be. I mean, because if we can get somebody to volunteer, it does nothing but better us, you know, I mean, with their knowledge, and it helps us make better decisions. And I think that's what we need to do, is motivate people who have these criteria. You know, we don't have to have every criteria filled, but if we can just get a couple, reach out and get a couple people interested who have what we're needing, what'll help us. You know, like I said, I'm sure they won't have any problems, you know, coming on board. You know, and they'll be accepted with open arms, you know, for their knowledge that they'll bring with them. You know, that's all I see is that's the hardest part of any volunteer board, is getting our citizens involved. And yeah, we know it's out there. You know, just everybody's got a life, everybody's got family.
So what's the next step? What do we go from here? Because, in all honesty, I like what Walt, you're saying. We agreed on that, and we need time to continue to grow to find these people. So, what's the next step to proceed to
I guess
get
what
these people?
I guess, Mr. Chair, what staff would ask is we've talked about some candidates that we can think of, both that are residents that would fill some of those holes, but also outside, especially when it comes to historic architectural expertise. But the ask for the board is if you know of anybody who could fill any of those roles, maybe, if you would reach out to them, and if they have any interest at all, encourage them to call us. We can talk to them and try to encourage them to you know, fill out an application, and you know, they could start coming to the hard meetings as soon as they like. I mean, if they're interested to fill out an application, they can get the appointment taken care of. You know, we could grow the hard by a couple of resident members, and if necessary, to get the actual expertise we're looking for, we could go outside as well.
All right, well, it's a challenge for all of us.
I'll throw this out there, just to pull the pin out of this hanger, Dave, and throw it out. We used to get paid a stipend to be on planning and zoning, because it does require some training and a lot of thought and homework, and it has become even more time intensive lately, and they've asked us to go to off-site training and that sort of thing. But in a time of extreme austerity in the city commission, we decided to take that stipend away from our planning and zoning, and it got a little harder to get people to do it. So I'm going to recommend that the commission go back to paying a stipend of $100 a meeting for members who are willing to serve, to sweeten the pot a little bit. We're getting ready to go into the budget cycle. The city is much more flush than they were a few years back, with some smart moves that management has made. So I'm going to throw that out there.
Are you suggesting also that the Historic Preservation Board have the same stipend, Bill, or what's your thoughts?
Well, if, you know, it's all, for as long as I can remember, it's just been the planning and zoning. I would say that, if you're on planning and zoning and HARB, you get $100. If you're just on the HARB, you get $50. Just per meeting, and we, really, HARB only meets, what, 3 times a year? 4 times?
Yeah, it's not very often, but,
So it wouldn't be a big impact on the budget.
I don't know, I look at this as a volunteer type of position, you know, which gives people an idea of what's going on in town, and I don't know, but, I mean, maybe it's something you can, talk to city commission about, but,
And I don't think it's so much about the money, it's about
Yeah, I
showing
mean,
respect for the people, that it actually means something to the city. I mean, we have many committees that, they never meet. We have the graveyard committee and the beautification committee.
Yeah.
and Nobody ever comes, nobody shows any interest, but we get pretty good interest in planning and zoning, and I think it shows some respect to the zoning members and makes people a little more interested in it. The city's gonna pay you a little stipend that they do consider it a job of some importance.
well, it's definitely, I can see where you're going, and, I can appreciate it, especially since a few of us have, you know, I think you've already gone to that out-of-town class. Did you go to that in St. Augustine?
In Gainesville that I went to.
Okay, you went to-
this year, and then there's another one, I don't think we've got anybody to go to it. Oh, okay.
Okay, you went to St. Augustine, and I'm going next week to Venice. So I mean, yeah, we do sacrifice time
Yeah.
for it, and of course, time is valuable. But I mean, I would do it anyways, regardless.
I will too.
I mean, you're like me in that respect. We do it because we love the city.
Yeah.
Well, and that brings up a good point too. As you mentioned, we're going into budget considerations for the next coming year. You know, requesting additional funding for board member training and historic preservation and those kind of things. So it's a good time for that as well.
I think it'd be an excellent time to approach the city with that. You know, I mean, you know, apparently, Wendy, you're going to be hooking us up with training wherever you can, correct? You know, that way we're better informed. Okay.
So I'll make a motion that we recommend to the board, or recommend to the commission that the planning and zoning board, be paid a stipend of $100 for.
If you're doing on both boards.
Okay, planning and zoning board members be paid a stipend of $50, and HARB board members be paid a stipend of $50 as well.
Yeah.
Then if you're both, you get $100.
All right, we got a motion?
That's my motion.
Motion on the floor. Is there a second? All right. More discussion then.
Guys, for
Motion died for lack of a vote. Lack of a second.
I don't know if this would have,
cookies in there, maybe.
I don't know if this would affect the outcome of the decision or not, but maybe $50 for planning and zoning, $50 for HARB, but if you're on both and it's 75, then it's not feeling like you're maybe double dipping, because you're already here for the one that automatically goes into the next. I don't know if that was even the consideration of the other board members or not, the money, but
I would have thought if it was a consideration, somebody would bring it up for discussion. Now that it's out there, is there any discussion? Is there other ideas?
Everybody's holding out for more money.
Yeah.
or they could go the others before.
I mean, when Matt Hersom had to step down from the P and Z, and I was
Well, he didn't step down. He stepped up.
well, when he stepped up to the commission seat, and the seat became vacant, and I was
guess appointed, wasn't
Mm-hmm.
appointed into it. There was quite a few on that roster sheet. I think there was 3 that ended up at the final. The harp, I just feel like our town is still growing, and it's very difficult, even if you were to pay, you know, a certain amount of person. I think it'd still be difficult even paying $100 to the P&Z, and let's say it was 100 to the P&Z and 50 to the harp, or 100 and 100. I still think it would be difficult to find. You know, I could call Rich, even though Rich wouldn't do it because legally he's still a city employee. But ask Rich, hey man, you know, as an attorney, would you sit on a committee for $100? You know, and it could take, you know, a couple hours, you know, out of your day. I don't know if I'm not trying to question professionals' pay or anything, but I think people do this. At least I do it for the passion of it. I love being involved. I see other in our city being the same way. I'm interested to see where it goes on the next step. That's why I was asking, what's the next step? Because I've been here for a year and I certainly don't want to step down. I feel like I still have some time to give, if you'll have me. But then I don't want to see the other thing is I don't want to see someone take it because they're like, oh shoot, it's $100. Now I'm gonna throw my name in the hat.
Exactly.
That's my other concern now. It's like, oh, well, I'll get paid to do this now. Great.
Can I interject something?
Go ahead.
Never compare any kind of payment to what a lawyer makes.
Mr. Chair,
Yes,
I'd like
sir.
to put our
It's just a
city
question of
attorney on the
integrity,
hot
Mike.
seat here for a second. Are you aware of any other communities in our area that pay a stipend to their planning and zoning board or any other boards?
Well, I don't remember, Brian. I'm just not sure if any of the other communities do that. I don't know. I do know that other communities have the combination P&Z and HARB are all combined in one for exactly the reasons that we talked about. It's hard to get people to be on 2 different committees.
And there's certainly an economy of scale if you can get your planning and zoning board members also trained up to do, you know, the hard work as well. There's definitely a savings to the city there. So, especially if we start expanding get expanded budget for training for the board members to travel to training.
I will say I've learned quite a bit, especially talking to this young lady in the audience here, when it comes to historic stuff in our town. And I have a respect for the contractor. I have a respect for, you know, the architects. But there's something with the experience that like she brings to the table that I feel like no money can buy. And just by being around her and having that constant discussion, you know, especially after you've had something come to the board and she'll, you know, tell you, hey, you know, this should go this way. It's that extra expertise that you can't pay for. I don't want to see the integrity of it, you know, kind of get dismantled. I'm not gonna lie, I'm on the record. I do not mind. Show me the money. I'm happy. Okay, I'm not against it. However, I just don't want it to be the integrity of the board be, you know, kind of blinded by it a little bit.
Scott, Mr. Attorney, would we need a motion to direct staff to look into other municipalities, how they, if there's any stipend for
No, you
their?
can just direct us to do that. If you like to do that, you could
Okay, 'cause,
survey
I mean,
the other cities.
I know for some people it does make a difference because their time is valuable. It makes it easier maybe to attract other people to be involved. I mean, is anybody against at least directing staff to check into what other municipalities do, whether they're paying stipends? Okay.
Good to me.
So we can do that. Well,
Do we need a
that'll be a
motion for that, or-
direction. No, we don't.
No, we
Yeah,
can
that's what I was
look
just
at-
asking. You know, and just come back, you know, next month and let us know what you found. And you know, I mean, if nobody else is doing it, I surely don't want to move in that direction. You know, And our position up here isn't one that's supposed to cost the city any undue expense, for sure.
Well,
You
it has
know.
in the past. Most of the years I was here, we paid $50 token stipend.
Yeah.
And then just recently we quit paying.
Yeah, it was when the recession hit.
Yeah.
We then, and I think it wasn't until several years into the recession when there was no raises and all that sort of thing. I think that's when we made the change.
Okay.
I want to question that HARP thing, though. You want an attorney, you want an architect, you want a contractor, you want a member of the P&Z. I don't see how we have an attorney. We do have a contractor. We always hire out. I mean, it's like telling us right now when you vote for the commission, and forgive my ignorance on this one, please, but it's like right now telling me that the five seated commissioners, one needs to be an attorney, one needs to be a contractor, one. I understand that they're elected officials and these are appointed seats. However, I feel that we as a city, when we come down to something and you bring us this document, when it becomes serious enough, we hire engineers, we hire architects. Why is it that we need another one to be appointed here when we're hiring out to get that legal advice anyways? And we have city legal defending us and protecting us. Why would we need... I don't know how Scott would feel about having another attorney sitting on this side questioning his legality. I mean, I'm sure you deal with it every day, but it's... You understand my drift? It's like, why, if we're hiring out for this, why is it that we're requiring it of the board? Just...
I think it's more just people that were interested in getting. It's not like it's a requirement. It's just that background expertise. You know, if we could find people like that to add to our board, that's kind of the direction that they're talking about. They'd like to see us go. Is just, you know, if we agree on expanding beyond the members here, that we want to look for people with that type of background. You know, they're not saying it's necessary that we have somebody of that with, you know, on the board with that types of backgrounds. They just,
Mr.
that's
Chair.
the preferred direction.
I think the permittive, number one, there isn't actually a suggestion of an attorney on that. I don't know where that, we kind of get a little off on that tangent. So, but as far as the other categories, I think when you're evaluating something, when you have a board that is more narrowly focused on something like historic preservation and the historic architectural review, then you're serving a different function than when you're an elected official, which has to make decisions on the entire broad range of everything that comes before you as an elected member of the body. And so, because of the narrow focus, you want to try to bring in as much expertise, local expertise as possible on the board. And you know, the architectural requirement, not requirement, but suggestion is one that because I mean, one of the core criteria or curriculum for an architect is historic architecture. And so even somebody in the architectural profession that doesn't specialize in historic architecture has been at least trained to some extent in historic architecture. And so, you know, that because of the narrow focus, I think that's why these suggestions are out there. And if you can get somebody local who's on the board that has that expertise, you don't have to go out and hire it. You know, that's the ideal situation. But again, you're right, for the situations where you need it and you just can't get it locally or in-house or as part of your volunteer board, then you do always have the option to hire it, contract for it.
So, Mr. Chair,
Yes, sir.
I think it's the intention of the commission that the same five that serve on planning and zoning also serve on HARB, but we can have, Brian, 2 more positions, 3 more positions?
Two more resident and 2 more non-resident.
So we could have a
Ex
total of
officio.
4 or more positions.
Mhm.
So maybe if we ask the commission or the staff, when you advertise in the newspapers, and they do advertise these jobs in the newspaper. I think the Alachua County Today and the Observer. Did we do it in the Gainesville Sun as well?
They're too expensive. We have not
We
been.
put 2 advertisements, one for planning and zoning board member and another one for 9 hard board members, and we list all the specialties that we're looking for, architect, contractor, whatever, and see how many applications we can get in, and then let the commission sort it out. I don't think they have to have the same, they have to have the 5 planning and zoning members, also members of the HARP. They could split it up. If they get all the specialties that they want, they could have 4 planning and zoning members and 5 just hard members or whatever. But why don't we do a better job, or not a better job, but more specific advertising for those kind of talents that we want? See if we can get some applications in there and let the commission sort it out.
You're awful quiet tonight.
That's a good suggestion.
And
We can
should we
definitely
put
do that.
something, we talked last month about wanting to get a Main Street member on the board too. Is that something we need to advertise for, or should we just go to Main Street and say, we'd like to have an application from one of you people that we could put? You got, okay.
There we go.
It's already a done deal.
So,
Okay.
Ms. Wanda, you got anything?
I'll let her know.
All right, so is there any other action that needs to be done on, B? Or is it just a discussion? Anybody else have any discussion on B?
Mr. Chair, I think we've got some good direction there. We'll act on and then report back
Okay.
to the board next month.
All right. All right, so at this point, we got topics for members for discussion. Mr. Conrad, you got anything?
No, I don't.
Nine?
No, sir.
Ms. Wanda? Jessica? All right, well, I'd like to remind everybody that we've got West Fest coming up on April 13th at Lois Forte Park. Hopefully, pray for, Oh, yeah, also we got elections coming up on the 9th. So we need everybody to show up to vote. But everybody pray for some sunshine on April 13th for West Fest. I think we got rained out last year and had to move it indoors. So, but it's supposed to be a really good show and real good family event. Mr. Mayor? All right. With that, we are adjourned.